Alright people, so welcome back to another video in our Mitre-Attack series. Today we are going to continue the encrypted channel technique and take a look at the Symmetric cryptography T1573.001. So let's get into this. We are again in the tactic of command and control. As you can see, the other sub-technique would be asymmetric cryptography, and so the difference between our last video and this one is that we now solely focus on the algorithms that you have to look out for when it comes to symmetric cryptography, and those are listed here, some of those. So common encryption algorithms include those. If you haven't watched the main video for encrypted channel, go back, take a look at this. We will repeat a lot of the stuff, but nonetheless, here look out for AES, DES, then you have the 3 DES, so at some point in the cryptographic history the DES algorithm was no longer secure, so what they did is they tripled it. We call it triple DES as well. So what they simply did, they took the block ciphers and they chained them. So they just applied the DES algorithm 3 times in a row, and as a result of that, it was a little more secure, but still DES is no longer recommended. It's AES today. And then you have these like funny names, blowfish. So when I was a student, we took a look at that as well. The RC4. So yeah, those are the typical, the common ones, let's say, that you have to look out for. Platforms we have again ESXi, Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and also network devices. And so these will be used for sending out encrypted communication. But so far so good, and adversaries, what they want to do, so they use additional encryption to hide their communication. So from a defender perspective, you won't necessarily see that something suspicious is going on. You won't see that immediately, but if you are able to detect the presence of such an encryption, this would be highly suspicious then. We'll get to detection in a moment though. Here we have some procedures. What I did is I copied these 2 procedures from the bottom. The list was fairly long, and so we should not expect anything extraordinary here. So it's again encryption, but the symmetric form of it. Symmetric encryption, by the way, if you're not familiar, uses just one key. So that's why it is called symmetric. You encrypt data with one key, and the same key is used for decryption. So in the history of cryptography, this is considered the more simple way of encrypting something. But it has a good performance, and what I see here already, this looks like a key right here. So if you are able to reverse engineer that stuff, you can decrypt all of the communication. What do they say here? 3-power-red, that's a software. Command and control commands are encrypted with the HTTP/C2 channel using the DES algorithm in CBC mode. Yeah, so these CBCs, there is EBC, so they are different block cipher. And I don't quite remember what CBC stands for, so BC is block cipher and C chained probably, so chained block cipher mode. There are different ways to do this, to chain these ciphers together. We did this at university on a piece of paper, but it's not critical for you. If you are interested, Google that stuff, DES CBC, you can find that. There are some nice diagrams, but that's not the point. The point is just to detect a DES algorithm in this point This is the suspicious aspect as well. And with a key derived from the MD5 hash of the string. Okay, so for the key they do a hash algorithm, and this is then the key. And then this 3-power-ret will use an 8-bit XOR key derived from the string if the DES decoding fails. So this was reverse engineering, obviously. So why is this information valuable? Well, you can decrypt information sent over this software. And the authors of the software and any criminal, well, they know that they have been uncovered, so they can easily change the key on their side before deploying a new attack. So I think these keys should not work in the wild, but sometimes they do. It's good to have researchers who uncover them. What else do they do? So the 4H ret obfuscates C2 communication using a 1-byte XOR with the key. So it's a pretty short key. They don't even try to be fancy here, but it will look like an encryption. And if you, as a researcher, I mean, you gotta get this idea right first that such an encryption has been used. Why should you guess that? So this is a very simple encryption. XOR, that's also something for the computer scientists, but it basically flips all of your bits in the message, and as a result of that it looks like encrypted, but here the key is fairly simple. So yeah, it's considered symmetric encryption indeed. Yeah, so the rest is not too interesting, so it's just all kinds of encryption. Again, the XOR operator is used a lot. Here, blowfish is used as well. I'm not too familiar with that, just know it exists. I know it's a symmetric, but what OFB stands for, I don't know. It's not utterly important to know the details of this encryption. It is fairly complicated. So, for example, even the DES algorithm is considered unsecure today. It is still a nice piece of engineering. And the only reason it is unsecure is because of the hardware performance increased so much you can brute force that stuff. But at the time of development, the hardware was nowhere near brute forcing the DES algorithm. And the same will happen one day to the SHA algorithm, to the SHA hash function, for example. Collisions will be found, and the AES algorithm. So you will have the hardware that we get. So here AES 128. Today it's considered secure. One day the hardware will be strong enough to brute force even that. So yeah, let's move on to mitigation detection. So for mitigation, again, the recommendation here is network intrusion prevention systems that are looking for network signatures and for specific adversary malware, and this can be mitigated. So if you just have a system in place that is monitoring your network, and signature-based matching, it's not perfect, it will not catch a whole lot of the stuff. Signature-based means there's a hash function behind that, but nonetheless there's a good start. And for everything that is getting through the mitigation, you then have the detection. And here we have a similar situation as with our encrypted channels. So with the main technique, you're looking out for communication that is not typical. Here they say unexpected processes that perform AES, or here you have processes that typically do not perform cryptographic operations, and all of a sudden they load libraries that are required for AES or other encryption. So just look out for the unexpected. This is again the key, and unexpected in that case in relation to cryptography. So your researchers at the SOC, they must be familiar with the typical algorithms as we looked at. So DES, triple DES, AES, and this can be monitored then in your SOC. And whenever you have an operation that should not happen typically, that's suspicious, then you can catch it. Next, let's move on to the references here. There are many references. What I did this time, I took a couple, 6 references here from the top, and then from the middle, and then from the bottom. So we have in total 192 references, which is quite a lot. That's simply because symmetric encryption is an old topic. The algorithms, they have been developed even at the time of Julius Caesar, the old Roman Empire. Even these people used some sort of a symmetric encryption. For example, so the Caesar chiffre, this was one of those classics where you shift all of your letters by a certain number. For example, you shift your alphabet by 2. So if it is now a letter, it would be a C letter. If it's a B letter, it would be an E, and so on. All of a sudden, the words make no sense anymore, but you know the encryption, and the recipient also knows to shift every letter back by the number 2, let's say. Well, that's how you achieve a simple symmetric encryption there. Today's computer scientists, they know these easy tricks. They will figure that out. You can brute force that stuff as well. But this technique is fairly old, and this explains why we have 192 sources here. Well, because malware has good reason to use encryption, and specifically symmetric encryption, because it's long out there, well researched, and you know what you get. Let's take a look now who is researching. There's a CrowdStrike, we have Putter, Panda, and you have Bitdefender. What else? Microsoft, Stage 2 Payload Analysis, Windows Defender, Advanced Threat Hunting Team, Platinum, Targeted Attacks in South and Southeast Asia. FBI has some research on Stop Ransomware, Lockbit 3.0. Well, that's a fairly new research. We covered Lockbit, a paper from 2023. Now they have Lockbit 2.0. I find that interesting. I'm not sure why CISA is no longer involved in this research. So the one that we researched, it was a joint collaboration between multiple parties, and CISA was there. Then like some other agencies and FBI as well. Now but it says at all, so they might be there. So good chance that we will take a look at this. What else do we have? Here's CISA analysis report, Quasar open source remote administration tool. Okay, never heard of Quasar, but then we have Mac, XLF, Haas, Sing. Yeah, nothing of that really catches my eye, but that FBI paper, we might take a look at that. Yeah, so far so good then, people. So we looked now at symmetric cryptography. I think have a little bit of an idea now how it works, what to look out for, and yeah, see you then in the next video when we will cover the asymmetric cryptography. Thank you for watching, as usual. Thank you for spending time on cybersecurity. It's time well spent, and see you in the next video then. Goodbye.